If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Today is the Adeptus Custodes Talons of the Emperor. Next time it will be Lines of the Emperor. I want to get these out a bit faster so we can move on to the How to Beat series. Talons of the Emperor can be built in many different ways. Until Solar Spearhead and Lines of the Emperor, Talons was our most diverse detachment. We will look at how the Talons of the Emperor plays, the Talons rules, unit roles, top unit combinations, general tips and tricks, along with some 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000 point example lists. Talons of the Emperor playstyle. Talons is not as popular as it once was. It still is one of our stronger detachments. Talons is one of our more high-skill detachments in my opinion. Talons of the Emperor has a few rules that are very powerful. They do need some setup though. Psychona units play a bigger part, but not as much as you may think. The Adeptus Custodes are a melee heavy faction. We do have some good shooting options. It is our melee and toughness the faction is known for. Our infantry models are not that fast with an average of 6-inch movement. What we lack in speed, we gain in overall survivability. Most of our units have that 2+ save with a 4+ invulnerable with at least 3 wounds each. Even our battle line, the Custodian Guard, have that profile. Talons will rely more on movement and setting up counter plays. It does not have the brute force of Shield Host, Lines of the Emperor, or even the Solar Spearhead detachment. Folger Piles won the World Championship with a Talons of the Emperor list in 2024. There is still plenty of strength in this detachment. I do recommend taking some Psychona units in your Talons list. It does not need to be jam-packed full of Psychona units. 3 or 4 units in a 2,000 point list is perfectly fine. If you want a detachment that requires a bit more skill and thought in your decision making, this is the detachment to try. Granted, it is not as exciting as others. Let's go through all the rules for the Talons of the Emperor. Knowing all the rules really helps for building a list. We'll start with the Army Rule Martial Kata, where in the fight phase, as long as the unit has the Martial Kata ability, you can either select one of 2 stances. Dakitar stance will give your melee weapons the Sustain Hits 1 ability, where Rendak stance will give your melee weapons the Lethal Hits ability. A great army rule to boost our melee damage potential: if we'll be wounding on a 4+ or less, take Sustain Hits 1. If it's 5 or 6s, take Lethal Hits. Martial Kata may not be the most exciting rule in the game. It sure is effective though. Our units already hit on a 2+, throw Sustained Hits 1 in there to hit every time on average. Lethal hits to tear apart monster or vehicle units. Adeptus Custodes is still one of the hardest hitting melee factions in the game. Unlike Shield Host, the Talons of the Emperor detachment rule does not have any kind of synergy with the Martial Kata. We still hit like a truck in melee in Talons though. The Talons of the Emperor detachment rule, Revered Companions. Psychona units from your army gain the following ability: Null Aegis. While an Adeptus Custodes unit is within 6 inches of this unit, models in that unit have a 5+ Funeral Pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. All other Adeptus Custodes units from your army gain the following ability, so if they do not have the Psychona keyword, they will get this ability: Deadly Unity. While a Psychona unit is within 6 inches of this unit, each time a model in that Psychona unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Adeptus Custodes love mortal wounds protection. The detachment rule does not mean we need to fill our list full of Psychona units. 2 Rhinos with 2 Witchseekers can be all we really need. The Psychona Rhino is a Psychona unit. Empty Rhinos can be really useful in this detachment. We do need to be within 6 inches of a Custodes unit to give that 5+ Funeral Pain to Mortals and Psychic. Movement and unit placement is the key to success in Talons of the Emperor. The Deadly Unity aura to give the Psychona units +1 to the hit only really matters if we are running large units of Vigilators. The Vigilators will go from hitting on a 3+ to a 2+. 10 models end up being 20 attacks, hitting on a 2+, Strength 5, AP 2, Damage 2 with devastating wounds. These girls hit hard. If we are just running small units to spread that 5+ Funeral Pain to Mortals and Psychic damage, +1 to the hit won't matter as much. Witchseekers have a Torrent weapon, so +1 to the hit roll does absolutely nothing for them. Now let's take a look at the Talons of the Emperor Enhancements. Our first one is Aegis Projector, Adeptus Custodes model only. Once per turn, the first time a saving throw is failed to the bearer's unit, change that damage of that attack to 0. This is one of my favorite enhancements in the detachment. It can save a lot of total damage over a game. The key thing here is that it can be used once per player turn, not once per battle round. We do not choose when to use this enhancement, it just happens on the first failed save. Opponents will try to use damage 1 to pop this, even if it is 1 damage per turn, that is a total of 10 damage turned to 0. This could be more if we're attacked by damage 2 or higher attacks. This on a unit leading wardens can be very strong. Champion of Imperium, Adeptus Custodes model only, the range of the bearer's Null Aegis and Null Unity ability is increased to 9 inches. This, in my opinion, is the worst enhancement in the detachment. Adding 3 inches to the revered companion's auras is not top priority in this detachment. We usually don't run the big Psychona units to take advantage of this enhancement. When we do, it's a Leia with 10 Vigilators, and a Leia cannot take an enhancement. The Knight Centura could use this. A Leia has the Fights First ability, making her the better choice to lead Vigilators. Radiant Mantle, Adeptus Custodes model. Each time attack that targets the bearer's unit, if the attacking model is within 12 inches, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Anything to cause less incoming damage to my beloved Golden Army is great. -1 to the hit roll of shooting and melee attacks is even better. Having to be within 12 inches for it to work is less ideal. This is what makes it a toss-up between Radiant Mantle and Aegis Projector. -1 to the hit does have more potential to add survivability. It will be a bit more army and list dependent though. Talon Guard or any shooting army will not really care about Radiant Mantle, they'll just stay back outside of 12 inches and light us up. The last enhancement is Gift of the Terran Artifice, Adeptus Custodes model only. Each time a bearer makes a melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll. A simple yet good enhancement. +1 to the wound roll is great on any of our Custodes characters since they already hit very hard in melee. A Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle or a Blade Champion are a great target for this enhancement. The Blade Champion has a Strength 6, AP 3, Damage 3 weapon profile, +1 to the wound roll counters that low strength. Next up is the 6 stratagems for the Talons of the Emperor. Some of these stratagems do allow us to target 2 different units, but the restriction is you can only select 2 units if one of them is a Psychona unit and one of them is a non-Psychona unit within 6 inches of each other. Our first stratagem is Emperor's Executioners for 2 CP. At the start of the fight phase, you can select up to 2 different models and 1 enemy target that is below starting strength. Those 2 units will have +1 to the wound roll against that target. Remember, if you are selecting 2 different units, one has to be a Psychona unit and one has to be a non-Psychona unit. Emperor's Executioners is the only rule in the detachment that buffs the overall melee damage of a unit. +1 to the wound is very strong on the Custodes melee. If we do have Vigilators in the list, they are a good target if we can get both units within 6 inches of each other. 2 CP is expensive. This won't be a stratagem that we can use all of the time. It will be used when we need that extra melee power to pick up a big tough vehicle or monster unit. Below starting strength is a hoop we do have to jump through. It's not so bad though. Best used on a unit who can reroll the wound roll such as the Custodian Guard or the Alaris. Empiric Severance for 1 CP. If you have a model within 6 inches of a Psychona model, instead of a 5+ Funeral Pain, you can have a 4+ Funeral Pain against psychic and mortal wounds. Anytime we have a rule to reduce incoming mortal wound damage is a win for the Adeptus Custodes. We do have to use this when the unit is targeted. We cannot wait until the mortal wounds have been allocated. Unlike Arcane Genetic Alchemy from Shield Host where you can wait until those mortal wounds have been allocated, we have to use this stratagem as we've been targeted. A 4+ Funeral Pain to mortals will be helpful either way. Another thing to note about this stratagem that brings the overall value down is the fact that we do need to be within 6 inches of a Psychona unit to use it, meaning we already have a 5+ Funeral Pain to mortals from the detachment rule. Lots of potential incoming damage, use Empiric Severance. If not, just take that 5+ Funeral Pain instead. Hunt is 1 for 1 CP. In the start of the movement phase, we can select up to 2 different Custodes units. Once again, as long as one of them is a Psychona unit and one of them is a non-Psychona unit, those units can fall back, shoot, and charge. Selecting up to 2 units means you don't always have to take the 2 units. If you can only select 1 Adeptus Custodes unit, like maybe you want to use this on your Wardens, we don't need 2 units within 6 inches to use this. It's just if you want to use this on 2 different units. Fallback, shoot and charge seems to be the cornerstone of many of our detachments. There is a reason for that. We are hard to kill elite models. Wardens can be downright awful to take out. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, the fallback and shoot part of this stratagem will not scare the opponent, but the fallback and charge will scare the opponent. Shield of Honor for 1 CP in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 Psychona infantry unit from your army that was selected as a target of one or more of those attacking units' attacks, and 1 friendly Adeptus Custodes unit within 6 inches of that Psychona unit. Until the end of the phase, any attack that targets your Psychona unit must instead target your other Adeptus Custodes unit as long as it is an eligible target. The long story short for this stratagem is we can use an Adeptus Custodes infantry unit to take the shots for one of our Psychona units. This is more of a situational stratagem for us. We first need a Psychona unit and a Custodes unit within 6 inches of each other. If it is some light infantry shooting attacking our Psychona units, we could use this to tank those shots on our 2+ save from the Custodes infantry. Another reason to use this would be to save a big 10 model unit of Vigilators with a Leia, force the opponent to have to engage her in the fight phase. For the most part, a 40-point unit of Prosecutors is not worth taking damage on our 45-point plus models. Say you have some damage 3 shots going into your Prosecutors, you don't want to use this stratagem on a 40-point Prosecutor unit to have those shots go into our Wardens and somehow lose 2 or 3 Wardens. That is 150 points lost to protect a 40-point unit. It is an interesting stratagem, but a situational stratagem. Next is Talons Interlocked for 1 CP in your shooting phase. This will give your ranged weapons +1 strength and +1 armor penetration. Talons Interlocked is infantry locked. No using this on a jet bike or grav tank. +1 strength and +1 armor penetration is just what the Custodes infantry shooting needs. Most of our infantry shooting has strength 4 AP1 ranged attacks. With cover so easy to get in 10th edition, AP1 might as well be AP0. For 1 CP, we can have strength 5 AP2 shooting, much better into those Space Marine toughness 4 3+ save profiles, better used on the Custodian Guard or the Alars since they have access to reroll wounds. Custodian Guard can shoot twice per game as well. The last stratagem in the Talons of the Emperor is the Talon Pincer stratagem for 1 CP. In your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move, up to 2 Adeptus Custodes units, one of them has to be a Psychona unit, one of them has to be a non-Psychona unit, or you're just going to select 1 unit. Up to 2 Adeptus Custodes units from your army that is within 9 inches of that enemy unit, your unit/units can make a normal move up to 6 inches. The detachment defining stratagem of the Talons of the Emperor. This stratagem adds a lot of the skill ceiling of this detachment. We can only use this in our opponent's turn, potentially 5 times a game. This means we need to plan this out. Do not let the opponent bait this stratagem out of us. We want to make sure we always have 1 CP in the bank for Talon Pincer. We also want to try to set up our units where we do not give the enemy much to engage with except for maybe 1 or 2 units. We want our opponent to have to move units within 9 inches of those 1 or 2 units to properly engage with them. They may decide to attack with just those few units instead of moving to shoot or moving to charge in risk of us using Talon Pincer. We want to use this stratagem to force hard decisions. It is a reactive stratagem. We do not want to play it like a reactive stratagem. We want to plan to use this stratagem. Let's talk about unit types. When I build a list, I try to select units from the following unit types: primary, utility, and attack. Now these are not keywords we will find on a datasheet. This is my own category of units I use when I build a list. Primary units to pressure objectives and score primary. Utility units to score secondary points, as well as add some buffs or abilities to help my other units. Finally, my attack units, the units I will use to attack the enemy's scoring and damage dealing units. These may seem simple, but they can make a difference between a bad list and a good list. Too many attack units and we do not have enough primary units to hold objectives to score, and then we lose the game on points. Not enough utility and we may have a good primary score, but still lose by a lot from no secondary scoring. Each faction and detachment will require a different mix of these units. It's not always a 33% of our total points for each category. For the Adeptus Custodes, we are a very elite army, only being beat by the Knights. This means we will not have a lot of units or even models on the board. Learning what each of our units are capable of is very important to the Custodes. We do not want to charge 2 units into a target, overkill it with the first unit, only to have wasted that second unit. Or the opposite, we charge 1 unit in, where 2 would be needed to take out the enemy unit. I know some of the 10,000 do not like to use Psychona units, but I promise you, if you start to include at least 2 units instead of 0, stick with it and you will notice a difference in your points for the better. Being so elite, we really need our units to have dedicated roles with a bit of flexibility. 40 to 50% of my Custodes list will be used on primary units to push and hold objectives. We are an average 6-inch movement army. We will not be threatening the opponent's home objective turn 1. Another 20% of my points will be spent on utility units, while around 30% is on attack units. Attack units are not as high priority for us since all of our Custodes infantry hit very hard in melee. The attack points could be spent on some long-range damage or for some fast damage units. I want to go through each of these unit roles and give some examples for each one of these roles. For our primary units, we do have the Custodian Wardens. These are the best of the best when it comes down to holding primary. They have the normal toughness 6, 3 wounds, 2-up save with a 4+ invulnerable Custodes profile. Their 2 datasheet abilities give them even more survivability. A once per game 4+ feel no pain for any phase, on top of an all-game -1 to the wound roll of incoming attacks if the strength is higher than the Warden's toughness 6. Talon Pincer, that reactive move, feels so good on these Wardens. Anything that we can do to save us from using our 4+ feel no pain for a phase is great. Use this to move 6 inches out of line of sight or make charges near impossible. Then we have the Custodian Guard, another jack-of-all-trades unit for the Adeptus Custodes. I feel the Custodian Guard are a weaker choice over Wardens, even more so in the Talons of the Emperor. Shield Host or Lines of the Emperor are more damage-focused, and that playstyle benefits the Custodian Guard's damage-oriented abilities. They are still a good option at their current price of 170 points for 4 models. Talons Interlocked give their ranged attacks +1 AP and +1 strength is a nice buff. We want primary units to hold and pressure objectives, something the Wardens do even better in this detachment than they normally do. The last for our primary units is the Prosecutors. Yes, the Humble Prosecutor unit is in my primary unit. They are our cheapest unit as of July 2025. These are 40 points for a 4-model unit. Our next best is a Witchseeker or Vigilator 4-model unit for 50 points. Another unit who will like the fact that most of our Talons Stratagems can be doubled up if the Custodes model and a Psychona model are within 6 inches of each other. The cheapest unit in the Custodes range that can spread that Null Aegis ability to give a 5+ feel no pain to Mortals and Psychic for other Adeptus Custodes within 6 inches. Next up is our secondary/utility units examples. The first one we have is the Witchseekers, my favorite utility unit in the Custodes Codex. A 6-inch scout ability, flamers to cause battle shock test, a 3+ feel no pain to Mortals and Psychic, a great unit. Besides a big 10 model unit of Vigilators, I would not target any of these Psychona units with stratagems unless they are within 6 inches of a Custodes unit, such as the Wardens that we are using this stratagem on. Take at least 2 units of Witchseekers in a Talons list to reap the rewards. I wanted to mention 2 model units of Alaris Terminators. These smaller units of Alaris are great units for secondary points. Even 2 of these is not a cheap unit, currently 120 points as of July 2025. I would put a unit of 2 in strategic reserves and then deep strike them down to complete secondary actions like behind enemy lines, established locust, or sabotage. They can even use golden light at the end of the opponent's turn to do it all over again. I also wanted to mention the Imperial Assassins. The Calidus Assassin is the best assassin we can take for secondary scoring. The others are more damage oriented or lack the same utility. She has a 12-inch aura of +1 CP to enemy stratagems, and the second she has a return to reserves at the end of the opponent's turn ability. The Warhammer community calls abilities like these Uppy Downy. She has Lone Operative to combine with those 2 abilities. Lone Operative means she cannot be targeted by ranged weapons unless you're within 12 inches of this assassin. Currently at 100 points, she can be pricey. She does die to a stiff breeze. If played right though, she can cripple the opponent's CP management and score us buckets of points. Our last utility unit is the Psychona Rhino. That's right, the Psychona Rhino, throw some Witchsakers in it and give it a 6-inch scout move. This is the hidden gem for this detachment. The fact that the Rhino has the Psychona keyword, anything within 6 inches of this Rhino will have a 5+ Feel No Pain to mortals and psychic damage. Instead of Squishy Sisters to spread this buff to the middle of the board, we can use a much tougher Rhino at toughness 9, 10 wounds with a 3+ save. Stratagems with a Psychona keyword will also work on the Psychona Rhino too, a hidden gem in this Talons of the Emperor detachment. Let's take a look at some of the units that make great attack units for the Talons of the Emperor detachment. We do have the Talons Custodians. The Talons are one of the hardest hitting units in the Talons list. They have their Golden Light ability for a reposition move and Slayer of Tyrants to reroll wounds into character, vehicle, or monster units. Talons Interlocked is great on the Talons. It gives both of their shooting profiles +1 strength and AP. That's their ballistic grenade launcher in either the Guardian Spear or the Axe, whatever you have equipped. If we do have an Talons shield captain in the unit, we can reduce the cost of stratagems by 1 CP. Emperor's Executioners for +1 to the wound roll in melee can help these rip apart units in the fight phase. Next up is the Vigilators. The Vigilators are a good unit in this detachment. I would even argue they are a good unit in any detachment. As of July 2025, they are a bit too expensive for what they are. 50 points for a unit or 125 points for a max unit of 10. Let's take a quick look at their datasheet. They have a movement of 6, toughness of 3, 3-up save, 1 wound, 6 leadership, and OC of 1. No ranged weapons, but for the melee weapons, we do have an Executioner's Great Blade, 2 attacks, hitting on a 3+, strength 5, AP 2, damage 2, anti-psyker 5 with devastating wounds. The abilities, we have Daughters of the Abyss. Models in this unit have a Feel No Pain 3+ ability against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. Deft Parry, each time a melee attack targets this unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. As you can see, these have some real melee threat, but die a bit too fast. They have to be up and close to the enemy. Toughness 3, 1 wound with a 3-up save is not going to last long. The fact that a lot of the powerful stratagems, such as Talon Pincer, can be used on both a Custodes and a Psychona unit at the same time as long as they're within 6 inches of each other, there is a lot of potential in these ladies with swords. Next up is the Virtus Praetors. The Virtus Praetors make a great attack unit in any detachment. The datasheet alone is enough reason to bring them. Toughness 7, 5 wounds with a 2-up save and a 4+ invulnerable, with twin linked on either of their ranged weapons. The Lance ability for +1 to the wound roll on their Strength 7, AP 2, Damage 2 melee weapon. Not as much stratagem support in the Talons of the Emperor. The shooting stratagem is infantry locked and the melee stratagem is +1 to the wound, and that does not stack with the Lance ability to have +2 to the wound on a melee weapon. If there is a -1 to the wound roll debuff going on, this can stack to get you back to +1 to the wound roll though. These are fast, deadly, and tough, 3 things we like as Custodes. The last attack unit is the Caladius Grav Tank. The Caladius tank is the Custodes tank we can get from the Forge World. Proxy models are out there. It's an amazing looking tank with an even better profile. The Land Raider is our Codex tank. This is the Custodes tank. We can use a Land Raider for some anti-tank. They just don't really stack up to how reliable these Grav tanks are. Lethal hits and twin linked is what makes these so much better than the Land Raider or even Canis Rex for long-range anti-tank shooting. Let's move on to some of the top characters and unit combinations for the Talons of the Emperor. The first one, of course, is the Blade Champion with Wardens or Custodian Guard. The Blade Champion is the best character we can attach these units to in this detachment. The Blade Champion is an auto-include territory when taking units of Wardens, since the Wardens need a character attached to access their -1 to the wound roll ability. The Blade Champion gives the unit a once per game advance in charge, as well as reroll the charges all game. It also has one of our only AP 3 damage 3 weapon profiles, devastating wounds on a roll of a 6/2. I wanted to mention the Shield Captain on foot. This detachment is one of the very few I might consider the Shield Captain on foot. If you are like me and you have a few of these in your collection but nowhere to play them, Talons of the Emperor is an option. Talons is a very CP hungry detachment, meaning we can go from 4 CP to 0 CP in just 1 or 2 phases. Emperor's Executioners for 2 CP, Talon Pincer and Hunt as 1 for 1 CP will be the main CP cost of this detachment. A Shield Captain with Wardens or Custodian Guard can reduce the cost of one of these by 1 CP once per battle round, a potential 5 CP saved throughout a game. Next up, we have Alea with the Vigilators. Alea is an auto-include territory if we decide to bring a max size of Vigilators. She does bring the cost of the unit up by a decent amount of points. What does she bring to the unit for that bump to the unit cost? How about a flat +1 to the hit roll to these Vigilators, and then if the target is below starting strength, we'll get +1 to the hit roll and +1 to the wound roll. Not enough? How about she gives the unit the coveted Fights First ability? That will make this unit great for heroic intervention. Throw those buffs on the Vigilators along with the Talons of the Emperor rules. This is a very good unit. It's still a bit too expensive if you ask me though. Next up is the near auto-include Inquisitor Draxus with the Custodian Guard. This is a fantastic unit. It is the Custodian Guard that powers up Draxus, not the Draxus powers the unit. She has her 4 shots of Anti-Infantry 4 Devastating Wounds Gun Dirge Singer. Then she has a Psychic attack that has 6 attacks, Sustain hits 2, with Strength 6, AP 0, Damage 2. She can give the unit the Lone Operative within 18 inches ability. Great when we're using her to hold the home objective or lurk in our back lines. She also gets Custodes Karate since Martial Kata is unit based, not model based. As long as the unit has Martial Kata, any model in that unit can either have Sustain hits 1 or lethal hits in the fight phase, making Draxus have some Custodes Karate. The last character I wanted to mention was Valerian with the Wardens and Custodian Guard. Valerian is a good option and cheaper option to a Blade Champion. I like Valerian in a Talons list. Talons is about being tricksy, using movement and abilities to our advantage. Plus, using Valerian in Alea gives us a lore-friendly list. He has 2 abilities, the main one being Golden Laurels. While this model is leading a unit, each time a melee attack that targets that unit, worsen the armor penetration of that attack by 1. This is Armor of Content in the fight phase. He makes Wardens awful to engage in melee with, and Custodian Guard are no fun either. Let's start our Talons of the Emperor list examples with a 1000 point Codex list. Our Warlord is a shield captain with the Pyrothite Spear and the Presidium Shield. The other characters, we have a Blade Champion with the Gift of Terran Artifice Enhancement to give that Blade Champion +1 to the wound roll and melee. For the other data sheets, we do have 2 units of 4 Custodian Wardens, both of those to join the Shield Captain and the Blade Champion. A unit of 2 Virtus Praetors with the Salvo Launchers, a unit of 4 Witch Seekers, 4 Prosecutors. Finally, for my dedicated transports, I do have a Psychona Rhino. Our next 1000 point list uses some Forge World units. Our Warlord is Valerian. For the other characters, we do have a Blade Champion, no enhancement on that Blade Champion. Battle Line is a unit of 4 Custodian Guard, 3 Spears, 1 Vexilla, Shield, and Misericordia in that unit. For the other datasheets, we do have a Caladius Grav Tank with a Twin Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannon, a unit of 4 Custodian Wardens with 4 Spears and 1 Vexilla, a unit of 4 Witch Seekers, a unit of 5 Prosecutors to stand on the home objective. For the dedicated transports, we do have a Psychona Rhino with the Stormbolter and the Hunter Killer Missile. For these 1000 point list, a lot of our units are going to be dual rolled, so they might be attack and utility or primary and utility. As an elite army, we do not have enough units to do everything in a 1000 point game, so we kind of got to mix it up and do a bit of everything. We do have a 1500 point list. I've used mostly Codex units in this list. My Warlord was a Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jetbike with a Salvo Launcher and no enhancements. For the other characters, we do have 2 Blade Champions. One of them has the Radiant Mantle enhancement, while the other has Aegis Projector. Battle Line is once again 4 Custodian Guard with the 3 Spears and the Vexilla. Other datasheets, 2 units of 4 Custodian Wardens with the Spears and the Vexilla in those units, and they will be joining the Blade Champions. A unit of 2 Virtus Praetors with the Salvo Launchers to join up with that Shield Captain, and then 3 units of 4 Witch Seekers. One of them will go inside a Psychona Rhino to give that Rhino a 6-inch scout move. The others can do some scouting and grab some secondary points. The allied units, we do have Inquisitor Draxus to join up with that Custodian Guard unit. That's the list. It comes to 1500 points. Next up, we have our Talons of the Emperor 2000 point examples. The first one, once again, is a Codex list. My Warlord is a Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle Jetbike with the Gift of Terran Artifice and a Salvo Launcher. The other characters, we do have Alea and 2 Blade Champions, once again one with Radiant Mantle, the other with Aegis Projector. Battle Line is 5 Custodian Guard, 4 Guardian Spears, 1 Vexilla, Shield, and Misericordia. For the other datasheets, we do have 2 units of 5 Custodian Wardens with the Guardian Spears and 1 Vexilla. Those will be joining with the Blade Champions. A unit of 3 Virtus Praetors with the Salvo Launchers to join up with that Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike. A unit of 10 Vigilators to join Alea. There is also 3 units of 4 Witch Seekers. For dedicated transports, we do have 2 Psychona Rhinos this time. Both of those have the Stormbolter and the Hunter Killer Missile. Our ally unit is Inquisitor Draxus to join up with the Custodian Guard. And that's my Talons of the Emperor Codex list. It comes to 2,000 points. Final example list is a 2,000 point list using some Forge World units. Out of the 2,000 point list, this is probably the more powerful of the two. My Warlord is Valerian. For the other characters, we do have 2 Blade Champions with no enhancements. Battle Line is a unit of 4 Custodian Guard, 3 Spears, 1 Vexilla. For the other datasheets, we do have 2 Caladius Grav Tanks with the Arachnus Heavy Blaze Cannons, 2 units of 5 Custodian Wardens with the Spears and the Vexilla, a unit of 4 Custodian Wardens with the Spears and the Vexilla. The 2 units of 5 will join Valerian and a Blade Champion, while the unit of 4 will join that final Blade Champion. 2 units of 4 Witch Seekers, and a unit of 5 Prosecutors for secondaries and holding objectives. For the dedicated transports, just 1 Psychona Rhino with the Stormbolter and the Hunter Killer Missile. We can put one of those Witch Seekers inside that Rhino to give that Rhino a 6-inch scout move. My final unit in this list is an allied unit, Inquisitor Draxus, to join up with the Custodian Guard unit. Remember, when you're building these lists, you want these units to have a role. For this Forge World list particularly, we do have 2 Blade Champion units and Valerian. The unit with 4 Wardens and a Blade Champion will go towards my expansion objective to hold that. Valerian with his Warden unit will go towards the center to pressure and eventually hold the center. I will put that last 5-man Warden with the Blade Champion in reserves as an attack unit. We do have the 2 Caladius Grav Tanks as attack units as well. Draxus with her Custodian Guard can be an attack and primary holding unit, while the Witch Seekers, Prosecutors, and the Rhino will be the utility units of this list, trying to get as many secondary points as they can. Don't fill your list full of things that can just kill things. You want to have a plan to your list. You want to be able to hold primary, do secondary points, as well as kill the enemy units. Be sure to remember those roles when you're writing your list: primary, attack, and utility. Let's finish the video with some final thoughts. I hope this helps any new or advanced player that is interested in the Talons of the Emperor Detachment. It has lost some of its popularity since the Solar Spearhead and the Lines of the Emperor were released. It is still a strong detachment with high skill ceiling and some fun tricks. It lacks the killing power of other detachments with a bit more movement and mortal wounds protection. Next up in our How to Build series is how to build a Lines of the Emperor list. Subscribe for weekly battle reports, list videos, and other Warhammer 40K content. Like always, thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by.